point where I've gotten to the point where writing is a relaxation for me. Most people, writing is difficult to do, but after you've written as much as I have, it becomes something that's actually very relaxing for me, and I enjoy writing. Um, Years ago, I started something called Data Warehouse, and Data Warehouse was an idea that the world needed to have. Uh, when I started Data Warehouse, it was widely rejected by IBM, by Oracle, and I think it's really funny that those corporations have made millions of dollars on data warehouse today. But when data warehouse first started, they hated data warehouse. Uh, uh, I served for a while on the SAP architectural board in Germany. And I have to say that I have or had, I don't think they're there anymore, but I had a lot of good friends at SAP, and I used to enjoy my trips to Germany. Uh, and But that's been a long time ago. About 18 years ago, I started something else. I started looking at the world of text. If you look at corporations today and you take a look at the data they have in the corporation, uh, the structured data really is only a small part of the data that they have in the corporation. The unstructured textual data actually is where most of the data in the corporation lies. And so I started to work on what would it take to start to use text in a database. And today I have technology called textual ETL that allows you to read text and put text into a database. And we have a small company right now, but it's growing, growing by the day. And we have some very interesting people that are using our technology right now.
Oh, nice.
Very impressive.
Very nice. So again, thanks, Bill, for the introduction. So let's quickly get it done between us. So Sneha, do you want to talk about yourself?
Yeah, sure. Hi, I'm Sneha, and I'm currently working as Business Intelligence Manager for L'Oreal. I'm based in Amsterdam. So basically, my responsibilities are to manage different business intelligence projects across Benelux, which comprises of Belgium, Netherlands, and Luxembourg.
Okay.
And currently, as we all know, we are quite a data-driven company, as L'Oreal works with enormous amount of data, and we are completely based on data for decision makings. So yeah, it is something very, very interesting, and our management is very focused that we are also moving a lot towards AI, machine learning, and big data technologies. But at the same time, data warehousing is something which is the heart of the organization. And
We are losing you, Sneha.
and I'll give chance to others as well.
Yeah, Vinita.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah.
Hey, hi, so this is Vinita, and I have around 8 years of experience in data modeling design for large-scale data warehouses. So currently I'm working with ITC Infotech, where my role is data warehouse architect, where I have to design the data warehouses with different technologies and for the different clients. So right now I'm working with one of the project called ITC with source forecasting, where we have to work with the data scientist team and understand their requirement and create a data mart for them, so that appropriate data should be available for them. So I am working on those data requirement and providing these data. So earlier I have worked with different companies like TCS, Cognizant, for data warehousing and data warehousing design. Yeah, that's it about me.
Great. Nilab?
Yeah, first of all, thank you, sir, for giving us time. And as everyone is have got experience around BI, I'm one of them. I started my career way back. It's been around 13 years for me, and I have been part of a business intelligence project. And I'm just following the footprints that you guys have created for all the young generations. And it's been like, I mean, data modeling is our core competency. That's what I can definitely say. And currently, I'm working as a data architect and have to look into the new horizons where, as you rightly said and pointed, that there is a deviation, the variation of data, whether it's a structured and unstructured. So we are concentrating on massaging both of them. And currently, I'm working in Auckland, and I'm part of a enterprise analytics team and working as a data architect.
Okay.
So we are very glad to meet you, sir.
Well, thank you.
Thanks, Nilab. So Bill, now I'll talk about myself a bit. So I have around 13 years of experience, and currently I am Director of Research in Data Science for Dell. And the goal I have right now is how can I bring in the idea that is being published in academia in the space of AI into mainstream. So currently I am working at the intersection of computer vision and natural language processing, where I'm working towards eliminating data entry for global financial services. And currently I'm heading the customer and financial services team for the data science across order management services, cash transformation, credit, collections, care. So across all these business units, any data science engagement that is to be run for Dell, it actually goes through me. And I've set up a research team where our idea is to prove the technology, build the algorithms, and then hand it over to the team where it can be scaled. So I work at the intersection of algorithms and data. Majorly right now, the focus of my career has been in researching cutting edge ideas across representation learning, graph neural networks and stuff. And then how do I bring it to the mainstream? And I'm building a team around it. But in the past, for around 7 years, I've worked in data warehousing, and 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 I've worked in creating data warehouse for the biggest. I mean, I worked. One of my engagement was the biggest data warehouse at that point in time for Citibank. It was called Genesis. I was part of the core team. So majorly, I've worked with banking financial industry models, and I've spent a lot of time working on IBM and Teradata industry models. I was an employee of IBM and Teradata both. So I've worked with their core data modeling team, and I was an enterprise logical data modeler for a brief period of my time. Close to 3-4 years, I did only data modeling. And other than that, I have good experience in data engineering. So I've worked in ETL, I've worked in reporting, and I have spent quite a bit of time in implementing BI systems. But my love has been around data modeling. I mean, around data modeling and architecture. That's where I've fallen in love, and that's where I still, I mean, my heart still beats for it. I mean, and your book was the first book when I started my journey in data warehousing, building the data warehouse. It has got a huge impact in me, because you won't believe, I as a 19-year-old kid, I read your book, and from that day till I was working in data warehousing, I found it very, very relevant. Most of the ideas of enterprise data warehouse, we have borrowed from what you have mentioned there. I mean, I had all the versions, but yeah, over a period of time, I understand the technology has changed, and the amount of data has grown. So the techniques have also evolved. So I do not work with modern day data warehouse technologies, and I believe that's why we have other people in the call now, because they'll bring fresh ideas to this discussion. So this is pretty much about me. And so let's start. I mean, again, let's start with this. So Bill, my first question to you is, like, we all started to know about data warehousing through you, and we all recognize you as a father of data warehouse, but we never know how you came into this. So we want to understand your journey before getting into data warehouse. What made you get into maths and computing? So how did you get into maths and computing?
I have an answer that I'm sure is going to surprise you, but when I got out of college for a year's time, I was a professional golfer.
Oh,
I used to play with, if you know the names Lee Trevino, I played with Johnny Miller, John Mahaffey, and in college I was it's interesting. I was a very good golfer in college, but I was never a great golfer. And so I was good enough to get in the tournaments, but I was not good enough to make any money, and which was a very difficult position to be in. So after a year of trying to be a professional golfer, I uh, decided to get a real job. Well, when I had been in college, I had taken courses in programming. And this is in the very, very early days of programming. And back in those days, anybody that even knew anything about programming was considered to be an expert. So I got tired of making no money as a golfer and got a job as a programmer. And so that's where I started. And then I just gravitated from programming to becoming a database administrator. Um, and then from a database administrator to becoming a system architect. And it's that at that time that I noticed that um, uh, when I was doing all of this, uh, transaction processing systems, OLTP, was what everybody was doing. And I thought that that was very strange because I saw that we could use data in a computer for much more than just transaction processing. And so, again, once upon a time in our profession, everything was for OLTP. And if you weren't OLTP, you weren't a professional. Well, I thought that was dumb. And so that's when I began to question OLTP. Now, one of the features of OLTP is that people build these siloed systems that I was at a very large company, and they must have had 200 separate systems, and trying to find a piece of data across 200 systems was impossible. I don't think much is impossible in this life, but that was impossible. And so facing the problem of how do you manage data across all of these different systems led me to the thoughts on data warehouse. And it was at that time that I became a writer. I would work during the daytime and go home at nighttime and write. Now, I'd never written anything in my life. And one day I just started, I started to sit down and I wrote my first book. And I have to tell you, I was amazed that people actually wanted to publish my first book. And then after I wrote my first book, I wrote my second book. And then I found out that I liked writing and could write. That's where data warehouse came from.
oh, very nice, very nice. We're very inspiring. I mean, this is very, very inspiring for all of us. But can you talk about your experience while writing the book, building the data warehouse? I mean, how did you thought about it? Why did you feel there is a need to publish something like? Because I know that when you started publishing, you also started writing in magazines in
That,
parallel. So how was the response? Because you told, right, like a lot of nobody accepted it. So how did you push? I mean, wrote a book, pushed the idea. So what were the challenges? How did you overcome it? I mean, some experience that can help us, because we are working on new ideas where nobody accepts us. So that can
well,
inspire us.
let me tell you something. My mother and my father were the two most stubborn people on earth. And it's so I am the product of their marriage, and because both my mother and father were so stubborn, I am a stubborn person. And I have part of being a stubborn person is that I didn't care then, and I don't really care now what people say about me. Because if I did, I never would have written the data warehouse stuff, because that was, I, I wish I could show you some of the letters that I got. One letter says that I should never be allowed to speak in public. Another letter was a death threat. Another letter was somebody said that let's see, that I shouldn't be, that I was setting our industry back 25 years. I mean, people hated data warehouse when it first came out, and by the way, you may find it interesting to note that the acceptance of data warehouse was not in the IT department. The people in IT were the ones that hated data warehouse the most. What we did was we knew that there were people in the corporation that wanted help. So we went to the marketing department, we went to the finance department, we went to the sales department, and we pointed everything to those three organizations, because the IT people were hostile towards us. And so and then the people in the marketing department and sales departments, they really liked data warehouse. And once data warehouse was there in the corporation, then the IT department decided that they were going to be part of data warehouse. But the resistance towards data warehouse was just tremendous. We're finding the same resistance today on textual ETL, on being able to use text in the corporation. We're finding the same resistance. And for that reason, when we talk to people about using the text in the corporation, we don't talk to the IT people. We try to talk to
Business.
marketing, sales, and finance. Talk directly to the business user. And you know, we had a sales call just this last week in which we talked about what we could do in the corporation, and we didn't once mention technology. We talked only in business terms as to what you can do. And so the IT department today does not like or accept the fact that you can use text, and they're wrong. But the way to change their mind is to show them results, and to show them results. Let me tell you a little story. In the very first data warehouse successes, the very first data warehouse successes came with the world of cellular telephone. Now, once upon a time, cellular telephone was a new thing, and the people that were trying to get market share in cellular telephones, it was a real battle out there to try to bring people into a particular cellular telephone environment. And so we sold data warehouse to the marketing people at several cell phone companies. And then what happened was the other cell phone companies heard that there was this new technology that people were using to steal their customers. And so the management of these large cellular telephone companies went down to the IT department and said, we're going to have a data warehouse. That we didn't sell it to the IT department. We sold it by the success of what we were doing. And so instead of, you know, the traditional way to sell something is to sell it to IT, and then IT sells it to management. Well, that was not the way it happened with data warehouse.
That's actually true. In our AI algorithm development also, Bill, if I have to share my story into it, you won't
Surely.
believe, I first try to show it to business. And if they get excited, that's when I go to IT, because IT never takes the risk of doing something on their own. And I felt that it's very important to get business excited. Once they are excited, your path to take any idea ahead becomes very, very easy. And I've
Yep.
always felt that innovation happens, if you want to drive innovation, it has to go through business. It doesn't go through IT. IT is a support function, right?
IT, you know, once upon a time, many years ago, when I started my career, and I'm not going to tell you how long ago that was because it was a long time ago, but when I started my career, at that time, IT had great pride in being a part of the business. But in today's world, IT no longer is a leader. IT is somebody that they're caretakers, not leaders.
Yes, they are not innovating anymore. So
That's correct.
yeah. So Vinita, if you want to ask the next question.
Yeah, sure. So my question is like, with the cost going down for the storage and processing, what impact do you think it will impact the physical database design?
I'm sorry, my phone was ringing, Vanita, and I could not. Could you please repeat your question?
Yeah, sure, sure. With the cost going down for storage and processing, what impact would be on the physical database design?
Well, that's an interesting observation. First off, let me tell you, I wrote a book on that whole subject one time called Technomics, the economics of technology, because the vendors of technology were telling people the cost of technology is going down, and it was true. The unit cost of technology was going down, but the total expenditure was going up. That the rate that people were consuming technology was far greater than the rate at which technology was going down. And once upon a time, technology was less than 1% of the corporate budget. And in those day and age, people really didn't care how much they spent on technology. But in today's world, technology is a significant expense on the corporate budget, and people do care. So the vendors used to love to tell people the cost of technology is going down all the time, so don't worry about the cost. Well, that was, there's an old story.
But
How do you
but
know when a vendor is lying? And the answer is when their lips are moving. That's when a vendor is lying. And so vendors weren't lying. The cost of technology has been going down, but the total cost of expenditures is still continuing to go up.
but Bill, with the modern technologies coming up, the hard disk cost, the RAM cost, I mean the overall cost of the storage. What I understood from Vinita's question was like storage and the RAM. If it goes down, do you think the ideas around physical design, I mean the performance tuning that we used to do 20 years back, a lot of ideas in designing the database, do you think it's going to change with the way technology is changing?
Oh, it already has changed. Back in the days when we were doing OLTP processing, we had whole departments that looked at how much technology they had, how much memory they had, and things like that. In today's world, we just simply go out and buy more technology.
Yes.
But we have a whole different set of problems today. The problems we have today are lack of integration of the data. We still have those siloed systems, and those siloed systems, you know, IBM and Teradata and Oracle and all of them, they want to do anything but face the problem of lack of integration. And I don't know why the problem of lack of integration scares them the way that it does, but it does.
Okay. Nilav, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I just want to add few comments on the same question. And I do see that there has been a lot of changes that has happened on the way we are accessing data. And as Vinita rightly pointed that with technology, there is a reduce in cost as well as storage. But from it's my point of view entirely that with cloud systems coming into picture, they are so tricky that, they say that you can spin up your cluster, you can spin up your storage, but there is always a backend thing which is happening, and you never know when, where, and at what point in time you're going to cost to the company, or even if you're using it at the personal level. So totally in line to what Bill said, that you never know how we are going to size it and how effectively we are going to use it. Bill, on your point of integration, I still feel there is a lack of integration in current world as well. And with cloud systems coming into picture, like people having different level of access over different layers, they keep on building their own stuff. And because people say that cloud is cheap, but it's not. So that's where the problem comes in. And traditionally, with my limited experience, I have seen EDW is, it's a core integration world where you get all the data integrated at one place. It's one-stop shop. But with these new technologies, since you have flexibility to create, a kind of a schema separately and start populating it and maintain data in silos, it has become more of a challenge than a cure, I would say. Yep. So yeah, so absolutely.
And these vendors that tell you how inexpensive the cloud is, they, again, how do you tell when a vendor is lying? And the answer is when his lips are moving. That's how you tell when a vendor is lying.
Yeah, absolutely. And the one addition which they are definitely providing us, that there is always a calculator on their respective sites, if you see. And you can use that calculator to basically calculate what amount of data you're going to store or what compute power you're going to use. So back to your thing, Saurabh, as you said that we did
I think Sneha, you want to ask something?
Yeah, sure. You can complete. And then I think my question is very similar to what Neelab you pointed out about the cloud technologies, and how is data warehouse going to evolve with the cloud technologies today? Because I have been working lately in the cloud technologies, and the way we are moving from on-premise data to the cloud-based data warehouse, it's quite amazing, because we don't we no longer require any hardware or infrastructure to set up, because it can be done so quickly. And this is something that has amazed me, how cloud can really reduce the cost, as well as it can simplify the architecture, whether it is the IAM access or so basically, yes, it is kind of a challenge. And how is data warehouse going to cope up with that?
Well, there's a difference between an architecture and a technology. The cloud is a technology. Data warehouse is an architecture. And the problems that data warehouse solve are independent of whether you have your data warehouse on the cloud or on premise or wherever you have it. And so now there's a couple of new technologies out there. The one I'm referring to is Snowflake. and there's a couple of new cloud technologies that are, as far as I can tell, very good. But 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 in terms of solving the problems of integration of data, solving the problems of the believability of data, I don't think the cloud has anything good or bad to say about that. You still have the need for the integration of data, for the believability of data. Again, I look at the cloud as a technology, not an architecture, and so that's how I look at it.
Yeah. So Vinita, do you have any another questions you can ask?
Yeah. So Bill, you have written one book with Dan Lindsay, Data Architecture, a premier with for a data scientist.
Yep.
You have talked about their data vault 2.0 methodologies. So what is the view of designing data warehouse in data vault with compared to the transactional like 3NF form?
First off, in that book on data architecture, the data vault section was written by Dan Lindstedt, and he's the leader in data vault. Now, I have to tell you that, and I'm the first person to admit I am not an expert on data vault. I really am not. But I will say this much. I go to a lot of conferences and talk to a lot of people, and the people that have done Data Vault have had great success with it. So in fact, I have never talked with anybody that has not had success with it. So I think that Data Vault, as far as I can tell, is a very good thing. As far as knowing the details of Data Vault design and everything that they do, you're really better off to talk to Dan Lindstedt. Now, there's another person that works for him that will be happy to talk with you. You may know her. Her name is Cindy Meyerson, and I can put you in contact with either Dan or Cindy. Dan tends to be a difficult person to get hold of. Cindy is much easier to get hold of than Dan is. But in terms of answering specific questions about Data Vault, I don't feel comfortable because I know that there are people that know a lot more about it than I do.
I think, Bill, it will be great if we can get connected to Cindy, because we all have heard. I mean, I personally didn't get a chance to use Data Vault, but I think Nilav has worked on Data Vault. Vinita is currently trying her hands around on Data Vault, and I have heard a lot of success stories about Data Vault. So it will be very interesting to know from a person who has implemented dozens of Data Vault models in the production, to understand how this whole architecture really benefits the whole data warehouse design and architecture. Because I mean, I've been doing it in a very traditional way. And I've had a lot of success designing the way you have proposed. I mean, I can tell you, I have some very large implementations on your ideas, and it was very, very successful. So I don't really understand changing the architecture, how it's gonna help. Do I understand that from an agility point of view, Data Vault adds a lot of value? I mean, again, Vinita is trying a lot of things around that. So I tend to discuss with her at times, but I do not have a full understanding. So it will be great if we can get connected to someone who can help us understand the value of it.
Okay, and I'm good friends with Cindy Meyerson. When we finish this call,
Sure.
I will send you the contact information for her.
Sure. Thank you so much. Nilav, you can go ahead with your questions, man. I know you
Yeah,
have a
I
lot of
have.
questions.
Yeah, absolutely. But I have the most important question with respect to my own understanding, which is on agile methodology. So traditionally, we have seen that while building a warehouse, it takes quite a lot of time and process, and we go with a plan that we need to have a CDM, LDM, and PDM. Now, with change in technology and the feeling that users have got, that they want everything so quick, and this agile has it's kind of a Uh, the agile is also very demanding where they want to see the output. So I have seen personally that following the agile methodology as compared to waterfall, we as a data modeler have a bit of problem in that, because we design, we test, and then we create, and we implement. But with uh, agile methodology, it's like every day or every sprint you have to come up with a set of tables that should satisfy the user need. And it has become so iterative that sometimes you feel that why do we need a data modeler? So where is the future, sir? I mean, in your point, in your views, the way we are transforming, the way new technologies are coming up, where is that the classic way of data warehouse design is going?
Boy, that Neela, that's a difficult question. Uh, 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 I I'm not sure I have a good answer for you. The agile methodology, uh, I think, did add a lot to. Okay, a long time ago, when people first started to build data warehouse, they spent they spent huge amounts of time designing, but nothing ever came out, and that wasn't right. Then the agile methodology came along, and people began at least to get things that they could look at and see. But as you pointed out, when you do things in the agile approach, you're forever redoing things. You're changing things and adding things and creating new things and throwing old things away, and it creates a mess. So one methodology of designing and producing nothing, I know that's not right. The other methodology of creating things and taking the things that are created on a daily basis and changing them, that's not right either. Uh, 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 and 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 the answer is I don't know. I wish I could give you a good answer. I wish I could give you a good answer, but I really can't. And I
Yeah.
apologize for that.
No
No,
problem, Bill.
fair enough, sir.
No,
That's
no, no problem,
yeah,
Bill. So
yeah.
Bill, I know we all here understand how you have designed data warehouse, and we all talk about it. But I wanted to hear from you, how do you define a data warehouse today? With, in your way, what is the best and optimum way to design an enterprise data warehouse in the modern era with the current set of technology where distributed computing is coming in the mainstream? A technology in last 30 years have made a lot of progress, and a lot of things have changed from mainframe era to RDBMS to big data to cloud. So how do you think in the modern era the architecture of the data warehouse should be, how it should be designed optimally?
Well, back in 1989, which is probably before you guys were even born, but
I was born.
back in 1989, I gave a definition to data warehouse. A data warehouse is a uh, um, uh, integrated, non-volatile, time-variant, subject-oriented collection of data in support of management's decisions. And and to this date, I've not seen anybody give a different definition of a data warehouse. And so I'm amazed that those words and those concepts have stood for as long as they have. See, 1989, that was 10, 20, that was 31 years ago that definition was given. So the concept of a data warehouse actually, as far as I can tell, hasn't changed. The implementation of it and the supporting technology of it, that very much has changed. One thing, I don't know if you've looked into this. Oh, I have another phone call.
Yeah, sure, we
Oh,
can wait.
oh, I'm sorry. I have to take this call.
Yeah, sure.
Bill Inmon speaking. Jennifer, how are you? Okay, what was it? Okay, that's fine. Oh, and by the way, when we originally talked, I did talk about a 5% discount. And yes, we can do we might as well do it all at the same time. Okay, that would be fine. Okay. Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Bye-bye. That was my dental office calling, and I'm going to have some dental work this afternoon, and
Oh,
I had to hear what they had to say.
oh, I hope there's nothing so serious.
I hope not too. But going to the dentist is one of my least favorite things in the world.
We all.
Yeah, I think that's true. So, in terms of data warehouse, one thing that I don't know if you've looked at are generic data models. There is a book on generic data models by Lynn Silverstone, and now with generic data models, you don't get the data model; you get a starting point. But that can save you a huge amount of time in the design process, is to start with one of Lynn's data models. I don't know if you're familiar with that
Yes, I have read that book. There is
okay,
three volumes by Len Silverstone. I have all
yes,
the three volumes. So
okay,
he has covered a lot of data model design patterns
yep,
and how it will abstract. And there was another book I liked by David C. Hay. Even he wrote on similar lines
yes,
on data model design patterns.
yep. So those can help, but um, uh, data, one of the interesting things about data warehouse is there is no committee, there's no company or no group of people that govern data warehouse. And in a way that's good, but in a way that's bad, because because if you run a committee properly and do the right things, you can get a lot of good coming out of the committee. But but on the other hand, committees tend to be bureaucratic, and you can also get a lot of waste coming out of committees. But I wish that there were a central body that controlled data warehouse, but there isn't.
Yeah, I mean, I have heard about a lot of data governance being set up to manage the information and manage the whole data warehouse. But I don't know how the data governance team is evolving, because with the modern day, a lot has changed the way, because earlier the programs of data warehouse used to be heavily funded, 200 member team. I've worked with 200 member team in the whole data warehouse program. And what do you think with the modern day age, where automation is being driven, and in the age of AI, is the future of information management, especially in the space of data governance, MDM, metadata, data quality? How do you think these things getting evolved?
Well, you may not like what I'm about to say, and if you don't, I apologize for that, but I'm going to say it anyway. The people that do compliance and data governance and all of those things, I look at them as part of the IT function that's holding back the corporation. I look at them not in a positive light, but in a negative light. Now, do I say that we don't need them? I can't argue that we don't need them. It's just that they're the very people that are not forward-looking people. If you look into the future, I think there is a amazing future in the world of starting to include text in the world of data warehouse. And the thing about text is the business value. There is tremendous business value in trying to include text into your data warehouse.
Yeah, so in line to this, Bill, you have written on textual disambiguation technology. So we want to
Yes.
understand as a group, what is this technology all about? What is your contribution to it, and what is your vision towards it? I mean, how do you view? Because you rightly said, structured data, tabular data that we see today, transaction, it's just 1/3 of it. The 3/4, I mean, the other 2/3 of the data is all unstructured around us. And if we want to get value in the business decision making, we need to unlock the potential of unstructured data. Now, the textual disambiguation looks very exciting, very interesting, because today, as I work with analytics, as I work towards finding insights from data and how I can automate a lot of tasks, half of the time I play with unstructured data. So we want to understand how we can leverage your technology. I mean, what is your view, your vision?
Surely. First off, we have a class on the technology. It takes an hour a day. It's free. There's no charge. It's over the internet. And the next class will be in the month of July, the latter part of July. We're going to start the next class. We have set up a facility for using textual ETL, so that after you finish the class, you can actually go to the cloud and use textual ETL for yourself to see how it works. And again, everything we do is for free. So far, we've had about nearly 300 people take the class from 47 different countries around the world. And so I will put you on my list. And again, it's an hour a day for 2 weeks time, starting in late July. And once you take the class, you'll know all about textual ETL. Textual ETL is a product. It does exist today. It operates in, right now, it operates in 8 languages. It operates in English, Portuguese, Spanish, German, French, Italian, and Dutch. We're right in the middle of adding Arabic to it. And so, and that, by the way, is kind of an interesting exercise, because I don't speak Arabic at all. I know nothing about Arabic, but I'm converting textual ETL into Arabic. Now, I have a wonderful gentleman in Dubai who's helping me make sure that I get it done correctly, because when it comes to the language, the Arabic language, I do not know, I don't know anything about it. But with textual ETL, you're able to use it for all kinds of purposes. We currently are working with police departments. You know, it's kind of interesting. Police departments have got an interesting problem because a typical police department will get hundreds of thousands of documents from the investigations that they do. Then they face the problem of how do we find common traits across these different investigations. And the problem is that the common traits are really obscure things, like a person wearing a red shirt, or a person having a beard, or a person having long hair, or a person smoking a certain kind of cigarette. It's not something that you can data model and index, because for every investigation, something different needs to be looked at. The other thing that people typically use textual ETL for is sentiment analysis, being able to understand what your customer is saying. I have some interesting sentiment analysis stories. In fact, I'll tell you one of them right now. About 2.5 years ago, a friend of ours who works for Nike Shoes called us up and said, why Nike is wondering why Adidas is selling more shoes than Nike is. They're worried about it. So we went out to the internet and we got 5,000 people who commented on the internet about Nike, and we got 5,000 people that had commented about Adidas. And so we ran them through our technology, and very quickly we discovered that many of the things people were saying about Nike were that I bought my shoe, it was expensive, and within 3 weeks' time, it disintegrated. When I went back to Nike, they would not replace my shoe. And so we took the information that we had, we sent it back to Nike Marketing Management. Nike marketing Management said, "Oh my gosh, this is embarrassing. We can't let anybody see this." So then we went to the president of Nike. We sent him a nice letter and said, "We are an independent third party looking at your company and your products, and here's what we found." Well, about 2 weeks later, I got a letter from the president of Nike saying, "Dear Mr. Inmon, Nike listens to certain consultants. You're not one of them. We don't ever want to hear from you again." And so they rejected everything we had to say. Well, about a year later, there was a famous basketball game in the United States between Duke University and University of North Carolina. It had the biggest audience in the history of American basketball, and even the President of the United States attended the game. And in the first 60 seconds of the game, the Duke's star Nike shoe exploded and hurt the Duke star, and he couldn't play the rest of the game. In 2 days' time, Nike stock fell by $2 billion. You can see it on the stock exchange that, oh my gosh, here's where their shoe exploded, and here's where their stock went down by $2 billion. That's a lot even for a company like Nike. And then Nike's management came along and said, "Well, we didn't know that there was a problem." They did know there was a problem. They were lying. They were not telling the truth. And so that's just one example we have of some really interesting stories about the value of listening to what your customer has to say.
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Bill. Nilab, you were asking something. Nilab, you there?
Yeah, hi. Yeah, yes.
You raised your hand.
Yes, yeah, absolutely, Saurabh. Thanks for that. So I was referring to one of the comment that you had about data governance and quality related to warehouse Uh, in the similar lines, I want to seek some guidance on compliance strategy. Bill, if you have any, because with changing technologies and cloud, especially a front runner nowadays, there are a lot of security as well as compliance issue. One good compliance that we all know is GDPR. So what is your take on that and suggestion? How should we consider compliance as a component in whole data warehousing environment?
You know, I don't like the answer that I'm about to give you, except that it's the truth. When you give your data to a third party, which is what you're doing when you put it on the cloud, when you trust your data with someone you've never seen before, you're taking a chance, and there's no two ways about it. You're taking a chance. I
Yeah,
can't answer that question. The person that has to answer that question is either Microsoft or Amazon or whatever cloud provider is going to say. And I got to tell you something. I personally don't trust vendors. Our world has been lied to uh, for many years, and so but on the other hand, in terms of speaking about security and cost and any other thing about the cloud, I if you're really worried about it, don't put it out on the cloud.
yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So
And
Bill,
that's what,
yeah, sorry. Nila,
sorry,
please go ahead.
go ahead, sorry.
No,
No, I
please,
was
please.
saying that's what the banks are all about. They are little reluctant to put their stuff on cloud as compared to other non-banking industries. So maybe that is one of the call we as a customer has to take, as you rightly pointed.
And you know, someday data on the cloud is going to be scattered all over, and it's going to be a disaster, just a disaster.
Yeah, I mean, there is no privacy left now. I mean, now everybody, I mean, with the cloud providers, they know a lot more about us than probably we might remember about ourselves.
That's
So
right.
that there is a risk with that. So Bill, I mean, coming with this cloud and with AI coming in mainstream, the bigger question that goes with every data modelers and every data warehouse engineer that I interact today in their mind is a lot of task is getting automated. A lot of decision making today that was done previously by database administrators, by physical data modelers are getting automated. So with this whole transformation in place, what do you think is the future of data modeling in the age of AI? Do you think a lot can get automated? I mean, what is your view?
Yes, I think a lot can be automated, and again, I I I look at the world. The future of data warehouse is not in what we've done in the past, but in the world of text. The world of text is so much opportunity out there. Let me give you a couple of ideas
So I
about.
have one question to add to it, Bill. Sorry to interrupt.
Sure.
So we have been reading about NoSQL databases. So with this modern technology coming up, with the columnar structures coming up, with HBase, Cassandra, with graph database coming up in mainstream like Neo4j. So do you think now data warehouses can be designed in a distributed way around this technology, or any of this technology can be used to solve the problem for which the data warehouse was invented by you? I mean, this whole idea, do you think these technologies have the capability to implement a data warehouse?
No,
None of
no, I
them.
don't. No. Well, let me tell you, when big data first came out, they said we can handle unstructured data. And when they said that, I got really excited because I thought, wow, somebody's finally addressing the problems. What they meant was they can store unstructured data, but in terms of usability of unstructured data, they didn't add anything. If anything, they made it worse. And so and NoSQL and all those technologies, they don't address the problem of believability and usability of the data. And that's what a data warehouse is at. So the vendors typically take a Silicon Valley view of things, and there's not an architect in Silicon Valley, not one. And I spent 10 years of my life with the venture capitalists in Silicon Valley, and I can tell you the, the 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 Silicon Valley is dominated by one thing, and that is how much money can I make, how quickly. That's all they think about. And in terms of architecture, in terms of needs and problems, and they don't talk about that. That they want to throw band-aids on cancer, and band-aids don't cure cancer.
Yeah, absolutely. So Bill, with all this, I mean, so how for the unstructured data like text, images, if somebody wants to design a data warehouse, then what is the way around? I mean, again, we cannot push that data to RDBMS. So how do we get value of that from a data warehouse? I mean, if you want to design a data warehouse around text and unstructured data, then what technologies to choose? I mean, beyond RDBMS, I don't see anything really helps here. Then if we can't use NoSQL Word.
Um, when Okay, I liken designing a data warehouse to a woman being pregnant. That a woman starts off with a body that is normal. You can't tell she's pregnant. And after 3 months' time, she looks a little pregnant. And then after 6 months' time, she looks even more pregnant. That there is a data warehouse has a core, and you build that core on the fundamental things. Then as time goes on, you gradually increase that core. That's like the baby growing in the mother's stomach. And you grow it. So, and the changes that you make are not to the base of that core. So that's the way I look at it. Now, when it comes to designing a text into a data warehouse, um, when I first start to get involved in text, I had skills of data modeling and architecture, and I found that when I went into the world of text, I was lost. I simply was lost, and that's because a data model does not apply to text. There's something else that applies, something called a taxonomy. Taxonomies and data models are similar to each other, but they're not the same thing at all. And so now the good news is there is a very nice place where a data warehouse and text converge. So they do converge, but trying to use data modeling techniques on text, I never could make that work. And I tried, by the way. I tried. Instead, I got involved in looking at taxonomies and ontologies, and that's what you use to manage text. So the world of modeling for the future is not data modeling. It is data modeling, but it's also the world of understanding taxonomies and ontologies.
That's a great point, Bill. I mean, I have been studying. Hello.
Yeah.
Are you? Yeah. So I've been studying around ontology and taxonomy for quite some time, but I could really never figure out a way. I mean, it does look a lot similar. A lot of things looks connected, but yeah, I mean, I could never try to create a bridge between data modeling to that world. And
Right.
I asked this question to a lot of people. I never got an answer. I mean, I never got an convincing answer which comes because even in industry model, we start with business concepts that looks very similar to ontology, and then we classify. We keep classifying it. That idea looks very similar to a taxonomy, but how do we implement that in real world is something it's not clear to me till date. I mean, I've not been able to figure that out.
May I suggest
Yeah.
that if at all possible, you try to take the course that we're having in July, and you will see how that actually works out. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, it's a complex answer. It's not anything that I can wave my hands and say, go do so and so. You know, it is a complex answer, but there is an answer, but it requires a long explanation.
Okay. Okay. So Bill, like I meet a lot of youngsters who wants to get into data warehousing, and everybody is excited with the world of data engineering exploding every day. And I feel very few people understand act, real data warehouses. And a lot of guys, they come and ask, how do we build? I mean, what advices do you think we should tell the youngsters who aspire to build a career in data warehousing? What they should focus upon? What skills they should develop today? Because a lot of things that was relevant way back in 1990 is not relevant today. A lot of it has changed, and it will keep on evolving from here. So, what do you think is your advice to all those youngsters?
Um, the greatest teacher on earth is failure. The way to really learn about something is to try it and fail at it. The way that I tell people to become a data warehouse designer is to build a little one, build it quickly, and then find out what you didn't do right, and then build another one. And it's through the failures that you have that you learn. And now there are other ways to learn. You can read a book, you can take a class, and those things are all well and good. But and they really are well and good. They really are. But the real teacher, and at least the way I learned, was by trial and error, and that's painful. People don't like doing that. But in terms of learning, you're going to learn more by trial and error than you are any other way.
Great. So I have one final question from my side, and then if anybody has can ask. So Bill, I also tried my hand in writing, couldn't complete a book. I signed a contract with Springer, couldn't move beyond 4 or 5 chapters. So I want to understand as a young writer, how do you think a person can develop writing skills in the technology domain? I know there is no formula for it, there is no recipe to it. I know that. But what do you think you will advise? I mean, you have written so many blogs, so many technical communication, how to improve in technical writing, technical communication, how to make sure that you're able to express the technological ideas in writing? I mean, I find it a little hard. And 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 how do you and then the other thing that I want to learn from you is, as a researcher, how do you push your ideas in mainstream? And how do you start with a question? How do you think through it? So there must be a scientific process to it. So if you can throw some light to it, I think it will help me as a person
Well,
to grow further.
let me give you the same answer I just got through giving you. As far as writing is concerned, uh, failing is the best thing you can do, and learning from your failures. I mean, let me tell you, and this is absolutely true. My sister is a writer as well. I come from a family of writers. And there was somebody a long time ago said that every writer needs to throw away the first thing they wrote. And let me tell you something. That is exactly what I did. I wrote a book a long time ago, and after ended up writing the book, I ended up throwing it away because it wasn't any good. But in the process of trying to write, um, um, there's an expression, developing your own voice. What that means is everybody has a way of expressing themselves. Some people express themselves one way, other people express themselves another way. But you've got to find your own voice. My sister June, she doesn't write technical books. She writes she writes romance books. But let me tell you something. She has her own fan club, and so she writes romance books. But she did the same thing. She wrote her first book and then threw it away. But then she developed her own voice of a customer, your own voice of expression. And so the way to do it is to do it and keep doing it until you come out with what you want to say. Now, let me very quickly tell you how I write a book. I have an idea. That if you don't have an idea, then you shouldn't be doing it. Number one. Number two, the first question I ask myself is this interesting? If it's not interesting, you shouldn't write a book on it. And I don't care what it is. And so so you have an idea, isn't it an interesting idea? And will it help somebody? Will somebody be interested in this? And so that's the next thing. Then the next thing I do is I make an outline. I outline the chapters. I say, well, we need to cover this, and we need to add this, and we need to cover this. And so I write down the chapter outline. And then I sit down on a chapter by chapter basis. I outline the points that I want to make, the topics that I want to talk about in that chapter. And then the next thing I do, I do all of the figures. And when people look at my works, one of the things that's characteristic of my voice and my works is I use a lot of illustrations. And the old expression that a picture is worth 1,000 words, well, an illustration's got to be worth 10,000 words. So I try to write a simple illustration of what I'm talking about. And so then after I've done all of that, then I sit down and start to write. I have the figures in front of me, organized in the order in which I want them to appear, and then I write them. But by the time I sit down to write, the book is already written by itself. I mean, it's very easy when I do it that way. The only difficulty, I've got a good friend of mine. I have a new book coming out on rethinking the star schema approach to things. There's a good friend of mine in an Italian fella named Francesco Pupini, and he's never written anything before in his life. By the way, my friend Francesco is Italian, and English is not his first language. And I have to tell you, I really admire him because English is not his first language. But when you read what he wrote, you would never know that. But he wrote it in English. But anyway, Francesco has the problem. He can't end it. He's written like 17 chapters, and he keeps adding another chapter. Well, that's a disease. You've got to end something. You've got to end it. And so he's my friend. As a friend, I tell him, Francesco, you've got to end the book. You can't continue to add chapter after chapter. If you want to add more chapters, write another book. But you've got to end this book, and you got to do it now. So that's how I write a book. Not everybody uses that. Most people don't use nearly the number of illustrations that I use. Most people, illustrations are, people don't use illustrations at all. And in our profession of technology, I don't know what I would do if I couldn't illustrate what I'm writing about.
No, that's great advice, Bill. I mean, I think your views are very, very clear, and it makes a lot of sense.
Well, thank you. It's worked for me. It's worked for me.
Yeah. So Nilav, Sneha, you guys have something. I think I'm done from my end. I wanted to ask one question, but I don't want to put a lot of things on Bill's head. Nobody asked about star schema in this group. I am very surprised. Like, yeah. So Nilav, you can do that.
Yes. So I think there are a lot of things that we are still learning. What Bill has just said to us. One of the questions which I have on star schema, as a modeler, whenever I do a bit of my work on data modeling, I used to come up with a diagram, and quite often I have seen a set of people stating that what is this picture all about? Where are you guys going ahead with that? Why aren't you going and start doing coding and start pushing data to your desired table? So what should I say to those guys where creating a schema in a pictorial way is just not a picture, it's a tool for me, and that gives me a comprehensive understanding what my thinking is, and it does give users a view that this is what we are going to present. So what is your suggestion on that, uh, sir, on that aspect?
Let me give you kind of a strange answer. Suppose you were building a bridge. Does the bridge you build depend on carpenters and people that lay foundation? And certainly you need carpenters, certainly you need to lay foundation, but if you're crossing that bridge, you hope that an architect has determined how much strength that bridge is going to have, whether the bridge can withstand wind. There's there's a lot of considerations other than carpentry and laying a foundation for a bridge is concerned. So when people want you to start to code immediately, you say, wait a minute, we need to look at this architecturally to make sure that what we're doing is the right thing. And to do that, I need to have a higher level abstract diagram at the beginning.
Absolutely, totally.
So that's and people say, oh yeah, I guess when I am crossing the bridge, somebody in the beginning has thought about how heavy, if my truck is too heavy to get over the bridge, I'm going to crash the bridge and have it kill myself and have a disaster. And so that's what I tell people.
Yeah, thanks for that insight. It's really painful to explain what you are doing as an architect, because you quite involved in creating that abstract diagrams and proposing new sort of pictures that would basically define your whole architecture. So it's
Yes.
difficult for us sometimes too.
Yes.
Yeah. So Nilav, Sneha, do you have any final round of questions for Bill? We don't want to push him much.
No, I think we should be grateful to him. It's been quite a nice chat, and I personally learned a lot out of it.
Well, thank
Sneha,
you. And
do you
I
have
would.
any question? Hello, Sneha, are you there? One second, let me just check with her.
I would much rather talk with you than go to the dentist.
we can always talk again, Bill. I mean, we had so much of fun. It's just that we don't want to push you much at this age in our conversations, and then make you tired talking and talking. But I can't tell you it's like a dream come true, at least for me. I can tell you, if there was no data warehouse, I would have had no job, because
Well, thank you.
when I was in college, I didn't know anything else other than data warehousing. I studied mechanical. I know nothing about mechanical. From my third semester, I am doing data warehousing, and I only read it. And because of that, I got a job. And because of that, I am where I am today. So data warehouse would have added a lot of value to business community. But as an individual coming from a lower middle class family, where getting a job post college is very, very important, I'll tell you, if your industry was not there, I wouldn't have been accepted to computer industry. So
Well, thank you.
it's a lot of value that has been created in my life, and I wholeheartedly accept it, that it's all because of your contribution or Ralph Kimball's contribution. So I recognize you guys as my hero. There's no doubt about it.
Well, thank you so
Absolutely.
much.
And I want to add one more sentence to that. Like, since we were kids in terms of warehouse, that when we started our career, there are only two people we have been talking about. It's you and Ralph, sir. So it's a great achievement, and thanks, Saurav, for bringing Bill to this conversation. I'm so overwhelmed by this.
Well, thank you.
And
Listen,
hope. Yeah, sorry, Will.
I
Sorry.
hate to say this, but I'm looking at the clock. I unfortunately I would rather sit here and talk with you, but I've got to go to the
No,
dentist.
yeah, we will wind up in 2 minutes, Bill. I just wanted to take a selfie. I don't know if everybody can switch on their video, because it's like uh, it's like once in a lifetime we get it. 1 second, I'm just asking Sneha to switch on. Yeah. So Sneha, can you hear us? I'm asking her 1 second. Yeah. So Vinita, we cannot see you complete. Yeah. So can someone take the selfie? Sneha, can you take it?
I am actually using the phone.
Okay, wait, let
So,
me take it.
and
I've
I
just
can't see
taken a
everyone. So
I've just taken a screenshot. 1 second. Let me just give me a second. Yeah, 1 second.
is it good?
Uh, yeah, 1 second. Let me do again. Yeah, I'll take one more. Yes. 1 second. Yeah, I think I've taken up the selfie. So thanks, Bill, for accepting our invitation. I can't tell you, it is such a moment of pride for all of us. It cannot be expressed. It's a gift. I mean, you have given us so much of gift. Again, you have given another gift. I can only thank you, and be in touch with you. And I mean, I just don't have any words, but it's been extremely privileged to actually listen to you, be live to you. I always dreamed of meeting you. I don't know if it can ever happen. And I hope you are safe with this coronavirus outbreak. Stay safe.
Oh,
Take care
it,
of
it,
yourself.
it's awful. Thank you so much. Thank you, everybody. I looked at the clock. Unfortunately, I
Yeah,
really
sure.
have to.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank
We'll
you.
sign off. Thank you.